Well, good evening and welcome to the desk of Steve Clark. And I've been going through a few things in the paper, and it really outlines why we need a change, a big change in government and the way we do business with government. First story. Union cites fundraising in suing Ontario over sell-off of Hydro One. Okay, so this is a story where the Premier, Kathleen Wynne, is doing fundraisers for $7,500 a plate and has promised people who pay that will have her ear. So it turns out that a syndicate of bankers got her ear for $7,500 a plate, and they cooked up a deal to sell hydro. And that deal netted them, and I'm quoting here, the syndicate collectively pulled in $58.6 million for its role in the privatisation. Now, I would say that was a pretty good return on $7,500, wouldn't you? Of course, you and I don't have that kind of dough to throw away to have the Premier's ear, and I'm not certain that she would be listening to any of us anyways. It doesn't seem she's listening right now. So Kathleen Wynne, take note of the joke in the Globe and Mail today. Approval rating, and the pitchforks and the lanterns at the window. Take heed. Take heed. The next story. This is McKay. Peter McKay used to be the Deputy Prime Minister to Stephen Harper. And he says, McKay advises against offensive tone, says it could damage Tory brand. Well, what are we selling here? Shampoo? Shoe shine? Bleach? What is this, a brand name? You know, you're selling a brand. I thought you were selling a philosophy. Anyways, let me see, what does it say here? Okay, McKay was responding in general to questions about proposals put forward by Conservative leadership candidates by Kelly Leitch to screen immigrants for anti-Canadian values, and by Tony Clements to enhance security screening of immigrants. You know, I find this kind of stuff is incredible because this is the slippery slope. Okay, first of all, we're just going to get onto the brand in a minute, but this is a slippery slope. Okay, so let me just see if I can get you to think about this in a different way. To screen people for un-Canadian attitudes, well, what does that actually mean? Say, for example, you decide to protest your tax hike. Is protesting an un-Canadian activity? Well, we don't know because un-Canadian activity has not been fully defined. So be careful what you vote for, because you may well find that these things that sound plausible enough are not in your best interest at all in the long run, because you may suddenly find that these rules that you thought were going to ensnare somebody else suddenly start ensnaring you. Okay, so he says it's not to say you can't have the discussion, but there is a lot of sensitivity, and as we saw in the election campaign, if you get on the wrong side of these issues and how they're presented, it can cause a lot of harm. Well, no kidding. And he goes on to talk about the Tories proposed the barbaric cultural practices tip line. This is a snitch line, not a tip line. And yeah, I just have to shake my head on that one. But it tells you it's not an ideology. It is not a philosophy. It is a brand, like a can of Campbell's soup. That's all these political parties are. You know, it's interesting that Kathleen Wynne is selling off hydro, especially as she only got around about 36% of the popular vote. That is not a majority. That does not give her a mandate to do whatever she feels like doing with the public assets of Ontarians that were purchased by Ontarians and are owned by Ontarians. But what we're seeing now is Mike Harris, Conservative Premier, sold off the 407, Highway 407, to foreign interests. Okay, this was a public asset. This is owned by the people of Ontario. And now Kathleen Wynne is selling off another public asset, and she's taken on Ed Clark, no less. This is the ex-head of TD Bank, and so you know he has got a shopping list from all his buddies on Bay Street, and they're going to pick up the performing assets of Ontario, and they're going to leave the public with those that need to be continually subsidised. This is such a dirty, underhanded kind of behaviour by this Premier. But it shows you that it doesn't matter anymore if you vote Conservative or Liberal. And this is why you need direct democracy. Democracy is too important to be left in the hands of the politicians. It's quite as simple as that. We need to take back power to the people, as they do in Switzerland. This is not a new idea, with direct democracy. The sale of hydro should have been a referendum to the people who owned hydro. And I'll tell you another little interesting thing about getting a 32 to 36% majority in the polls. You know, if you have a referendum and it is attached to the ballot, that referendum is not valid unless the majority of eligible voters cast their ballot. We had a referendum here in City Quarther Lakes a few years back to de-amalgamate, and the referendum won by quite a large majority. However, only 48% of the eligible voters voted in the election, and so it was declared an invalid result. Now, what I'm suggesting is that with our provincial elections, if not more, or if more than 50% of the vote don't show up to vote, then the election's not valid and the party doesn't win the majority. How can you have one rule for one set of things like referendums, but play another game and another rule for the elections? So anyways, Kathleen Wynne and Mike Harris, you did not have a mandate to govern with 32 to 36% of the popular vote. Okay, so moving right along, I thought this was an interesting little story. Incomeless students spent $57 million on Vancouver houses in the past 2 years. I'm not quite sure how all of this managed to come about, but the banks obviously knew that something slippery was going on. Let me just read this little piece, this section of this article. The properties include a $31 million mansion that Canaccord Genuity founder Peter Brown sold early this year to a buyer whose occupation was listed on the title document as student. 4 of the sales to student buyers were covered by mortgages from 3 major banks, a fact that underscores how Canadian banks are inflating the region's housing market. Now, how did you manage to get a $31 million loan when you have 0 income? Big banks? I'm waiting for an answer here. It's absolutely incredible, isn't it? Well, maybe the next story will explain how that took place. And this little story I found quite amusing. Oh, here we are. Okay, it says, overqualified workers often lacking basic skills, study finds. StatsCan researchers examined the relationship between overqualification and skills in literacy and understanding numbers. They found that nearly half the university graduates who were working in a job that only required high school had low literacy skills. Similarly, half of the overqualified university grads had trouble working with numbers. It suggests that numeracy and literacy skills make a difference, say the study's co-author Sébastien Laroche-Coté. That is a massive finding of the study. Massive finding of the study that being able to do reading, writing and arithmetic is important. Come on, you've got to be kidding me. The study goes on to say it could also be that some university graduates are less skilled because they occupy a lower skilled job and thus have fewer opportunities to use, maintain or gain skills than their counterparts in jobs that require more skills, the study said. Reading, writing, arithmetic is grade 10, as I recall. Now, I have a grade 10 education, of which I'm very proud, and my grade 10 education has got me through 60 years of life and many self-learning opportunities. I can read, I can write, I can do arithmetic, I have read many bills, I have self-represented myself in court, many things with a grade 10 education. So it's not that the students are working in a lower skilled job and didn't get to use those skills, it's because they didn't know them in the first place. Now, in my store I have several retired university professors coming in for haircuts, and they tell me that many, well, 50% of the students have to go on remedial reading or mathematic courses because they don't understand the base. They can't even read the curriculum. They can't do cursive writing. They can only print and understand computer print. No wonder we have banks lending money to people who don't have an income, because they can't read the contract, no doubt. No wonder the country is in an absolute mess, because these are the people who are doing the math to figure out how to build the bridges, where to put the roads, and how to run things. If you cannot read and write and do simple arithmetic, you simply are not qualified to do any moderately complex job. So it really is no surprise. In fact, it plays into all of these other articles, the way these people are viewing these things, the way they believe that they can play fast and loose with public input and with public assets. This is absolutely incredible, and it's not until we the people, we the true owners of this country, stand up and not get angry, but demand that you have input into the process. And that is only going to happen when you have large numbers of the population who believe that this will work and that this is the way to conduct our business. So I would like to encourage all of you to do that little bit. You know, what we're seeing right now, and I'm sure that we can all pick up on this, is that we're really heading in a terrible direction. If you're a retiree, any level of income, it must surely be apparent to you that at some point in the not too distant future, you are not going to be able to keep up with the cost of living. Hydro bills are going through the roof. I found out recently that the cost to produce a megawatt of hydro is $5. And Hydro One is charging us $50 a megawatt. And more price increases to come. This 8% kickback that Kathleen Wynne is going to give everybody is going to be offset by the carbon tax on your gasoline. So they either get it with one hand or they get it with another. This is relentless, it is unending. And if we don't gather together soon to have our voices heard, we're going to be overwhelmed. We won't be in a financial position to be able to do anything. So it doesn't matter how rich you are or how poor you are, this affects every single person. And I would like to ask you to support the Social Media Party and go for direct democracy. Look it up on Wikipedia. I'll put it in the links below there, so thumbs up if you like this video. And but we all have to do something. The time is running out, and there is no one else that I can see on the horizon who's going to step up to the plate and take care of what needs to be taken care of, and that is to put the decision-making process squarely back into the hands of the public and stop this abuse of power that's taking place. Does anybody not get shocked at the denials that go on here? You know, the $1.1 billion that was lost on the Oakville power plants being cancelled. How many hospital beds could we have kept open for that? How many seniors could we have helped? How many people on disability could we have helped? $1.1 billion is a heck of a lot of money. And what was the response from the government? Oh, nothing to see here. Keep moving right along. Nothing to see here. Well, there is something to see here. And I think we're all getting a little tired of this nonsense. So please join with me, support the social media party, and let's have some real change. Not this fake mockery change, but some real change that we can all live with. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good evening.